This podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Welcome to the Roll for Initiative podcast.
This is the Roll for Initiative podcast, volume number 3, special insert number 7. DM Vince sitting alongside DM Matt this week. Matt, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Things are great here.
That's right. We're back this week, and this week we have our special insert. We're going to talk about virtual tabletops, but we're going to narrow it down to one really cool tabletop, virtual tabletop, Roll20. And we have our special guests. We have part of the crew of Roll20. We have Nolan.
Hi.
And we have Richard.
Hello.
Who are basically part of the Roll20 people that keep the site going. And Nolan, why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for Roll20?
So Richard and I are both, there's 3 people who are involved with Roll20. Riley Dutton is the other one. He's not here with us right now. And he's mostly the programming into things. For my part, I run the marketplace. I'm really involved in all of the external stuff, so I'm the one running around saying hi on podcasts and stuff like this, doing things, all over the internet and just kind of spreading the good word that is Roll20. And we also both do a lot of testing, bug reports, and just, keeping everything moving, keeping the machine well oiled and kind of grooving. Richard, what would you say it is that?
That's a good question. I would say I'm more of a catch-all, I guess.
Catch-all.
I kind of do everything that's left over after Riley, because Riley does all the programming. So once Riley's plate's full, it's like what's left over that needs to get done, I would say. But I also run our bi-weekly live stream game.
When you edit our podcasts, you do a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. Like I do a lot. I do the rest of the stuff. That's why I was like, there's not really like I don't think there's like a specific. I do lots of things. I think we all do lots of things.
Well, it's funny because this isn't our first. We've done other projects and stuff like that, and just we've lived with each other and done all these things through the years. So like we have a really natural flow of falling into the right places at the right time.
Right.
Like we're actually pretty. I mean, to think that we've been doing this for a year with basically the 3 of us and some assistance in moderation is pretty crazy, I think, that we've now got, 160,000 users or whatever, and it's still just these 3 guys who most of the time can finish each other's sentences when everything is flowing well. So
You've just worked together so much. You just know each other so well. You know how to respond before the other even asks the question.
And what the other needs, or when the other needs to, you need to not be here today. You need to go take a break and get out and see the sun.
Oh, it's the kind of thing too that there are certain like just the skill set. And I'll take a pretty quick example. Mm-hmm. Nolan's not very great with spreadsheets or things of that nature.
Spreadsheets are terrible.
But Nolan's a much better writer than I am. So I was writing a blog post, and I wrote a couple of paragraphs, and it didn't look very well. And I just kind of threw it up on our message thing, and I was like, I need you to fix this. And Nolan was like, well, I need a spreadsheet that has this information in it. So it takes the other 5 seconds to do what the other would have taken hours to do on their own. Yeah. And then everybody's happy.
I think, too, the fact that we've been involved with each other so long, there's also a real drive to, impress the others, which is great. I mean, it's really nice to have somebody like my partners in this are people that I want to feel good about what I'm doing. So when we split up the tasks, who's going to do what this week, when I come back with mine, I want mine to be something that people are like, that Riley and Richard are both like, that was awesome. That was great. I'm really glad that he did that and it was impressive. And so everybody's work is kind of in a way that they're trying to make it better so that the other guys are, pleased with it and impressed. So, yeah, I like these guys a lot.
All right, so Matt and I both have some questions from ourselves. I have some questions from the community that I handpicked myself. So I'm going to just jump right into things for you guys, and you can decide which one of you want to alternate between answering questions. But I think the first question that everyone's always wondering is, Tell us the story of how Roll20 got started.
It's kind of funny. Basically, so we had played some Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition like 3 years ago online for a little bit, and then it petered out because it was just too hard to do. A certain program with a lot of port forwarding made it difficult for the less technically inclined in our group. And so it stalled out, and then I started playing. We all moved apart. We were all living in Kansas, and then I moved out to Las Vegas, and Richard moved to DC, and there was just no way to make things work. And I ended up part of a game out here in Las Vegas, started playing, and then started kind of bragging to Riley that, haha, I'm playing D&D again, and it's awesome. And he was like, man, I really wish that there was some way to do it long distance. And then he figured out that a program that he was working on already for image sharing, he started saying, well, what is a tabletop other than images on top of other images? It's tokens on top of maps. What if I took this real-time image sharing thing that I'm working on and kind of ported it? And the turnaround was really, really fast. I mean, it was a conversation in February. We tested it in March, and Kickstarter was April.
Right.
I was like, give me a couple weeks. Let me see what I could do.
And it was just crazy fast. And that was literally all there was to it. Like, Riley calls me up one day after he's got the program made and says, I think we should take this to Kickstarter, and I want you to like talk me out of that because, you know, it'll take a lot of time. It would be a lot of effort. We really shouldn't do that, right? Or, you know, this would never be a success, right? And I was like, no, I think this is a good idea. And I think that we should waste, thousands of hours on this. And yeah, I think from there, it went from, I think one of the things that really helped Roll20 is that it wasn't made as a product initially. It was made as a way for Richard, Riley, myself, and our buddies to play games long distance. And our guiding star in those early days were if we ever had an area where we had to choose between design philosophies, we would always just go, okay, what would I need at a table? What would I need if I was playing Monopoly or Settlers of Catan or anything like that? Instead of, well, what does 4th edition need? Because if we'd made it into a 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons game board, I don't think it would be nearly as successful as it is.
Might be out of business right now. Anyway,
yeah.
That's cool. And obviously you can't tell us what platform you use other than the web-based.
Yeah.
Right? Because that'd be kind of your secrets away.
What do you mean? Like
your coding platform, would it be HTML5?
It's HTML5.
Yeah, HTML5.
It's JavaScript, HTML5. If you actually go to our acknowledgments
I want to say
page,
it's on the acknowledgments page, yeah.
Yeah, everything is there. Like all the stuff that we use, it's not, I mean, the code itself is nothing that we've released, but you can definitely see, I mean, we use Twitter Bootstrap for kind of the visual look of the site, and it's all
we use Firebase for our real-time sync server, Fabric.js for basically the canvassing, the actual tabletop itself.
Yeah. I mean, everything there is, we're not trying to hide the third-party sources or anything like that we've used. There's
you don't have some custom-made, super secret APK or anything that you're.
No, it's all all there.
Yeah, it's all open standards that you're just taking advantage of the existing technology as opposed to creating something from scratch.
Let's go a little bit further down the timeline. We're doing the Kickstart now, and people are catching on and backing this. How did G Plus get involved, or Google Hangouts? How'd that get involved with this whole project?
I think it was just a matter of Richard. I keep jumping in. You can stop me around when you want to take.
No, go ahead.
But I think it was mostly a matter of we wanted to make certain. So TalkBox, which is our built-in video, is peer-to-peer. And so it was having a rough time with some international users. Yeah. And so we were looking for something that could give us another option. And it was funny, when we first integrated, we first did the Google Hangout app. Google Hangouts was not nearly as far along. Like the amount of progress that Google Hangouts have made in the past year, as far as how smooth they are to run, is really impressive. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And so when we started out, it was just kind of like, okay, here's, there's a large RPG Google Hangout community. So here's this for those who are already playing, via Google Hangout with a whiteboard. And this will help some international users. But anymore, Google Hangouts is how we, the development team, play, because it is just so smooth and such a simple video experience that it really is doing very well. At the same time, though, there's going to be some announcements here in the very near future about WebRTC, which is the new standard in browser-based peer-to-peer video and voice. TalkBox, who's our built-in app, is moving in that direction. And so there should be some improvements and some new use out of that in the near future as well. So it's cool to have two options there that hopefully, one will at least work for everybody is the hope. But yeah, Google Plus, it was just literally there's a big RPG community there, and it's something that's not peer-to-peer based, so it gives a shot to those people who were further apart in their gaming groups.
Matt, questions?
Yeah. How much you already referenced it some. I was just curious when it comes to how many players you would be able to have online at once before you would start having server issues. I mean, you already referenced that the voice chat and the video chat, that's all being peer-to-peer, so your servers aren't taking the hit for that. So I guess it's just the tiles and the tokens and the dice rolling that's coming off of your servers.
Yeah, and really that's all dependent on Firebase,
okay,
which is our real-time sync server. And actually, they're still in beta. Is that right?
Yeah, they're still in beta. And
I think they had just came out of beta when we first started making Roll20.
They just opened their beta.
Right,
it's still a beta. It was a closed beta, and they opened their beta right as we started putting things together. And it's been a growing process with them. There was one point where we hit, was it 1,500 or 1,400? There was like a magic number where we hit where it was too many people online at one time. Mm-hmm. And so we split across some of their servers and did some other things. And we're constantly finding small improvements that help the system run faster for everybody. So an example here within the last month and a half, Riley went in and he was looking at all the data that's stored on every visual object in Roll20, and he realized that 90% of all objects, you take it, you drop it in, and you don't rotate it. And he was keeping rotation data on all these objects that hadn't been rotated. So he took it out so that there was no rotation data unless you rotated the token. And suddenly that makes everything load faster. All these weird little things that build up and accumulate to help the system run faster. But right now, I mean, as far as total users on the macro level, we've seen over 2,000 users in a single evening at one time. On the micro level of an individual game, we actually haven't tested and pushed that. It depends on the machines involved, really.
Okay.
So,
yeah, but if we want to talk about that time right after the Kickstarter, I mean, there were times during the beta where we had thought about where we're gonna have to build our own sync server.
Yeah,
God, I hope not. And actually, that was the main barrier from coming out of beta and into just being just launching or being ready for the public, was that if so many more people hear about us, we're not going to be a reliable service, and we don't want to be unreliable if we are launched. So once we were comfortable that they had everything was sorted out, that's actually that was the okay. Firebase is ready. Let's launch. Let's do this.
It's really funny too, the difference between a service that's up online 93% of the time and a service that's up online 99.8% of the time. To a player, that's all the difference in the world. If 7% of the time your game is glitching out and messed up, it doesn't matter. The service is essentially unusable. Yeah. So getting that last,
yeah. It's I think it's 99.1 to 99.99999.
Right.
Yeah.
And the amount of work to go that little bit is huge.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea. I mean, the whole thing is, we want it to be online, no download, no install, nothing to configure, and to keep that ease of use and functionality, it needs to be able to be used anywhere all the time, 24/7. So.
Right, because that seems to be one of the biggest barriers right now to online gaming is you have your fully featured software you can download. Then it requires you to read a 200-page technical manual to be able to script it properly for your game. And
no thanks.
No, and then you have other services that they work well, except they have a really high upfront cost before you even get to use it. So I like Roll20 just because I can actually just sign on and use it, and it seems like right now the way you're generating revenue would be just through your marketplace and selling premium tokens and maps. And do you see like more of a subscription service coming on, or are you happy with just selling custom content at this moment?
I think that's a big misconception, and I'll let Nolan talk about that.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that it's a split is the thing. So there's, for these games to work, and this happens out in the real world as well. So when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, there's usually somebody who invests. There's somebody who goes and buys maps, buys tokens, buys the things that are needed, and then invites you over to their house, which they're paying rent on, and there's a table, and there's all these, elements that go into it, and then the people pitch in on pizza and that sort of thing. But there's always those friends that you're bringing in that they wouldn't do it if it wasn't, cheap entertainment. That there's not, that they would never go and buy, as much as they may love playing these games, they would never go to a store, buy the elements, and do those sort of things. And I think that this whole model kind of reflects that there's going to be people who are going to use this service for free, and that helps fill in the games for those who are more serious, who are more power users and that sort of things. So what we really try to do is, first and foremost, have a free service so that the barrier to entry doesn't exist. So we can bring in new players, so we can bring in lapsed players, so we can bring in any sort of gamer that would be interested in this with no barrier. But then as we get into the more advanced things, that's where we put all right, well, if you want to do this wild and if you want a system that lights everything for you and sets up its own shadows and that sort of stuff, that's going to have a price associated with it. If you want these lavish tokens and maps and that sort of thing, and you aren't bringing your own to the table, that's something that has a cost associated with it. And by doing it in that method, it rewards the work that the people, not only us, but the majority of the stuff on the marketplace, that money is going to the artists involved. Okay. And it rewards that work and shows its worth. But at the same time, too, it gives us a goal as far as things to push for and improve. We really want to make the subscription something that's a no-brainer. That, okay, the free service is good, but now that I'm using this a whole heck of a lot and I'm doing all these different things with it, look at all these bonuses that could happen if I went to the other side of things.
Oh yeah, you definitely, especially if you get the Mentor subscription plan, you can get to access the
the development
server.
Development.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean the development server is one of those things that it's a benefit, but it's only a benefit if you're interested in that stuff. Like, it's a very clear line as far as, so if I'm a general user of Roll20, I probably don't want to be working on a server where there's all these bugs and things that are crashing and a mess. But if I'm somebody who's really interested about, okay, so what's going to happen next? And, how do I get input on? So right now, what we're testing on the development server is journal entry sorting and all these new updates to it, and that you can search it, and that there's default token slots for characters and all these things that, people are going to be really excited about, but they're in testing right now. So there's problems with it, and we're seeking input on, well, how do we make this part better? Some people don't want to deal with that nonsense, and they shouldn't have to. No, but if you're interested in that and you want to get feedback on it, it's a great place that you can literally be involved. Like, everything we do on the development server, we're doing it hand in hand with the mentors going, so how do you want this to work? And their direct feedback is what's changing they really are mentoring the program.
And I think when we think about, when we designed the subscription program, like Nolan said, when you look at an in-person group, really there's one person that invests their time and money and their personal resources into the game, and then they have people come and they play. So when you think about it like that, we never assumed that more than one person per gaming group would ever have a subscription at any level, really. Yeah. It's not effective. Everybody shouldn't have to have a subscription in order to get the bulk of the content out of Roll20. And I think that translates to people who want to be behind the scenes and on the dev the dev server. Like only maybe one of those 1 in 5 people would want to get behind the scenes and see what's next. So,
well, and I think too it also goes back to Kickstarter, and this is something that we really strongly believe in. Anymore, there's a lot of Kickstarters out there which are basically fund this product that's already done, and I think that's crap. Like, I think that a Kickstarter project is something that since it's not something that you're investing in, it's something that you definitely should have input on. Like you are collaborating with the creators to make a better product, and that's where the Mentor idea started off at that level. We started in the very beginning and said, all right, we are going to have everybody who pledges to this Kickstarter is going to be involved early in everything, and then these people are going to be more involved as time goes on.
Right.
And it's worked out and been.
I think the Kickstarter, we talk about 1,580. We know that number. That's the number of backers we had. Mm-hmm. And we know that just because that was like we went from the three of us knowing about what Roll20 was to 1,580. This is our user base now, and I think that's our most important number. We always know how many accounts we have. Because I think that's really the most important figure. Like whatever we do, it's for those people who use us and support us. So we always want to be stewards of our community, or however you want to say it. We want to be worthy of their money, their time, their loyalty, or however you want to say it. So,
have you considered maybe changing the Mentor name for the subscription to something else like Development Tester or something? Because Mentor, when I think it leads me to believe like, oh, I'm new to Roll20, this person's going to automatically help me because he's a mentor.
We've had some conversations about what the occasional confusion there is with it. Yes. But at the same time, I don't know. We may try to make it clearer on the forums at some point as far as, maybe there's hover text that says, all right, this is what a mentor is. But I don't think that that's anything. I think in a lot of ways it's accurate towards what the core of the site is. I think maybe what we need to do is, in addition, do things like this person has experience, or this person is somebody who is trusted to discuss here. We already have about a half dozen people that are highlighted as moderators, and then beyond that, if you were somebody who is in the Kickstarter, that's something that shows up on the forums. But we really would like to do more tags, more badges, and stuff like that in the future that kind of give people a way to not only talk to each other on the forums, but find other people to game with that they know are going to show up on time, take it serious. The biggest problem right now with looking for group in our system is that some people don't take it seriously. They just spam instead of, oh, this is something I'm committed to by inquiring about it. Mm-hmm. So
I have some questions about that later on, but let's back up a little bit about the subscription plans.
I feel like we're rambling. Maybe we should make our answer short and sweet for now.
No, you guys are fine. I'll call you one. One of our listeners, who's a frequent person to your software, Celestian, his name is Mike. He wants to know, when are you going to allow some PayPal subscriptions instead of credit cards?
So the thing about PayPal is that the programming for it, one, is a bear, but two, if you look around, there's not a lot of subscription services that use PayPal because it's not good with the recurring. It doesn't match well with our accounting software. There's a lot of things as far as when it actually transfers to the bank. PayPal is kind of a nightmare. Yeah. It's something that we have definitely looked at.
We've looked at it quite a few. There were times when we're like, do we need to do this? Do we need to do this now? But every time we go back to pick it up, it's just like, it would be like I think at the maximum we would have we can buy a 1 month. 1 month membership and that's it, or maybe maybe put the yearly memberships one click, but even that would be that's something that's down the road even if we wanted to do that.
I mean, it really is, and people seem to think that if you think about it, there's not many things that you're paying that are a subscription service for PayPal, and that's a universal thing. I didn't realize that either until I was on the side of having a program like this, but it really is a horrible, awful bear.
Yeah, I know someone that has a subscription website and uses PayPal for his subscriptions. He told me about every week he loses about 5 or 6 subscriptions, and the message says on his end, the user canceled the subscription. The user got an email saying the site canceled their subscription. No one knows why. It just happens. And when they call PayPal, PayPal has no answers for them.
Well, and PayPal is a very odd entity, I think. In some ways, they're the services that we work with, like our server, Firebase, like TalkBox for our video, like even Stripe, which is what we use for our payments and that sort of thing.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Which is amazing. Like, there are people who respond when we've got emails. There are people who are easy to understand and clear about what they're doing. It's a very similar business mindset.
Yeah, they're the kind of people that are like, you're having a problem, we love your app, we're glad that you use us, what can we do to make your experience with our product better? And so you'll continue to use us.
And having that sort of like communication with the people who help our service go, like Stripe has been so amazing on both the accounting ends and the use end and the security end, and they're constantly looking for, I mean, there have been, since we launched subscriptions in September, there have been 4 or 5 updates that Stripe has made, which have honestly made our lives easier in terms of the programming, in terms of the accounting. So to have something like that where there's constant improvements, I don't know, it's hard to go, oh, let's jump into something that's really going to make our lives horrible,
right?
And isn't going to be as responsive. That said, it's something that we're going to continuously be looking at because, especially in the international communities, it is a standard,
right?
But
and I think, I mean, we have a lot of critical. I mean, obviously, you can say we've talked about this at length amongst ourselves. I mean, if it's the kind of thing that if we had unlimited time and resources, it would be on the list of things to get, to implement. But that list is pretty long right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things above it.
Job for you guys is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like Roll20 is absolutely for all of us a full-time job right now, and it doesn't pay like a full-time job quite yet. So it's one of those things that, as more time and the money to turn down other work and to, it's a very real barrier to be able to go, all right, I literally, like, I have to go either get freelance work or I have to, do this 40-hour a week gig and other things elsewhere when it could be time that's just Roll20 time. Or we could hire, another programmer here or there and things like that. So, I mean, the more there are subscriptions, the better. But at the same time, it's not to a point yet with PayPal where we feel like if we did that, it's going to ease that burden. In some ways, we're afraid it may complicate that burden.
How many hours are dedicated a week towards Roll20? You'd say
This is one of those questions that I never have an answer for.
Yeah,
because I live and breathe it. Like,
yeah, that's every day.
It's all day. Like, I get up in the morning and the first thing I do is run through the forums and make certain that nothing is wrong there, or it's just so constant a thing that it's
the kind of thing where if somebody would have told me a little over a year ago, I would say that, there's going to be something that you just do automatically every day and not think about it. I'd be like, no, that's my video game time, or that's when I'll,
yeah,
that's when I'll be watching, whatever. So, yeah, it's just, it's all the time, every day. It's like, you can't not turn it off in your mind.
And like, just an example, with the marketplace alone, we probably get, I'd say, 3 new applications a day for people to bring in marketplace content. On top of that, we're dealing with the 30 or 40 people who already have content on the marketplace. and everybody has their concerns at different levels. Everybody has different levels that they are informed and understand what's going on. So not only am I working to help, I'm working to help people who are new at it. I'm working to help people who are already there and making, hundreds of dollars a month through the marketplace system. And at the same time, trying to keep everybody on the same page, trying to make better documentation. So when we bring in new people on the marketplace, they understand what's going on. Looking for ways to, with our limited amount of programming time, find what we can do on the marketplace to immediately improve it. That's worthwhile, that can be, just a fast, all right, what's one thing that we could do on the marketplace with this next update that's small, easy to program, and it'll help. It's just such a constant, and that's just one portion.
And I mean, to be honest, like when we first like, it was like, okay, here we're gonna do all this stuff before we launch, and then when we launch, we're just gonna sit back, see what we made, and take a breath, and just kind of reassess, and then we'll make a game plan. And like the day we launched, and then it's never stopped. Like it was just like, this is what needs to get done this week. This needs to get done next week. This needs to be done by Saturday, and that's never stopped happening since. How
do you guys sleep not worrying about the site? I would wake up in the morning like paranoid the site would be gone, or I don't. You guys go through that at all?
That's something where everything is set up so that there's like alarms essentially when things go bad, and Riley is a saint and wakes up anytime that there is a part of it is that he has 2 young children that already wreck his sleep schedule. So he's used to this, but he is literally on call for Roll20 at night. But luckily, as we said, there's been a whole lot of server improvements, so there's not been the sort of problems that there were at one point in terms of things going down in the middle of the night. But we've been fairly lucky in that regard thus far, knock on wood. But beyond that, if there is actually a problem,
I don't think there's ever a time where we don't know where the other person is.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Now, like, it's one of those things. Like, I knew Richard was going to be out yesterday at like a convention, and there was something like I knew.
Yeah, I knew Nolan was at work till 6 o'clock.
Yeah, like just know where each other are at all times.
So like, if I needed to get a message to him, I should try to be online this time to make sure this has happened or this needs to happen or whatever.
It's funny, we're all married as well, and so there's things like we know when each other's date nights are with our wives, so it's like if an issue comes up that's in Richard's wheelhouse or in Riley's wheelhouse and it's one of their date nights, I need to try to do everything I can to hold that off so they don't have to like cancel date night.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. We don't need the wife mad.
Yeah. Have you guys tried reaching out to any game publishers to add content to the marketplace, maybe maps and tokens for specific modules they've released? Or
Yes.
Yes. I don't know how hard I can say yes.
Okay.
We've reached out to everybody and anybody.
Times.
And any name that you can come up with, we don't need to have a yes or no. The answer is yes. The problem is they have to understand, and some of them do. Some of them are figuring out when and where it is best for them to do so, but they have to come with the complete package. When we do modules, which we should have our first few modules that are coming out to users, gosh, I hope in May.
There's one available on the.
There's one available already on the development server. That Adventurer Week put together, which is very nice. But at the same time, after they put it together, they were like, we don't know if we have the time to do this in the future.
Right. Which is, I mean, that's a completely...
That's perfectly valid.
Yeah, it's perfectly valid assessment.
But we should have Right Publishing, which did the breaking of 4-star Nagar for map tools and some other virtual tabletops at one point. There's now a port of that, which is coming to Roll20, which should be out in the next month. But with both big and small groups, the understanding has to be this has to be a complete one-click package that you can jump in and play. So the maps need to be there, the tokens need to be there, the stat blocks need to be there. You need to have if you're an independent publisher, you need to have the rights to all that to make certain that you can do it and do it digitally. Yeah. And if you have all that and bring all that to the table, it really is easy because all you have to do, it's not a programming issue. It's not a highfalutin, you've got to do weird things in this way. All you have to do is set up a game in Roll20. After you set up a game in Roll20, we can go in behind the scenes, take it, copy it, and make it something that other users can use with your permission.
It's just the one thing too is most publishers, I mean, big or small, really, they might have maps, they might have their tokens, but I mean, when you buy a module, when you buy a book, you get the story, but you don't get all of the maps. You don't get 100% of the maps for every encounter. You don't get 100% of the tokens for every NPC and monster you fight. So that's kind of stuff where we can't take the liberty of using a blank or like a square token in place of their 4-star goblin orc general to say in this super master level fantasy the user wants the whole thing and we want to give them the experience.
It's just, we think it's really important, one, in that it gives the opportunity for quick play. It's something that, when surveyed, something like 70% of our users say that they would spend money on the marketplace if they had one-click modules that were of the game type that they play. There's so much to be done there, and our standard deal, and this is public, this is everywhere, is that if you guys do all the work, if you come in as a publisher and you set it up inside of Roll20 and you have all the elements, 70% of each sale, and I'm not talking about profits.
You own the rights to the elements.
You own the rights. We don't take any rights.
You write the module to either an open rule set game, or you own the rights to the rules.
Yeah, 70% of every sale. We handle the credit card fees out of our 30%. We advertise it. We push it to our users. We do everything. When you do something with a store and a physical product, it's a 50-50%. This is a better deal than the other digital publishers out there do, because they don't handle the credit card fees. They expect that's something they split the profits. They split it profits 70-30. We don't even do that. Our deal to creators is really, really good, in part because what I do.
Nolan's a creator.
I'm a creator. I write comics, and so it's really important to me that creators are well taken care of, that they have ownership of their work, and that they are essentially given a platform to do cool things out of. And so this is something that I'm really, really passionate about. And it's one of those things that one of these days somebody, and maybe it's somebody listening to this podcast, has content that they can bring and share with the community. And I think that person's going to make a lot of money. But it's one of those things, if I had more time in my day, I would go be that person. But I don't have enough time to get the art team together, and because there's no doubt that making content is just as big a thing as anything. I mean, content is king. Content's the most important part of any of this. So, we're focused on making a table. If you have something to put on the table, do it, please.
Yeah, team@roll20.net.
So yeah, that's the answer to that question.
So obviously, if you don't own the rights to, say, the module that you want to use, you could use it on a private basis, but you wouldn't be able to distribute to the community.
Correct. Yeah, you can't distribute. I mean, obviously, if you don't own it, you can't distribute it, is the short legal truth of that. And rightfully so.
Yeah. So I want to make it clear, even on a free basis, you wouldn't be able to distribute it at all.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's something that you've got to have the proper rights to distribute. And anything, there's so much out there now that makes it really clear. I mean, there are things that are open source that'll say, yes, you can distribute this, but you can't make any profit, or you can distribute this and make profit as long as you attribute this way. Just look at the rule sets of what you're using, look at the art content of what you're using, and you should be able to figure out pretty quickly as to.
Yeah, I mean, Pathfinder took the open gaming license and ran with it. So
yeah, there are a lot of things out there you can do, and it's just a matter of taking the time and effort to do so.
I'm really surprised that Paizo hasn't incorporated you guys with their society and all the information that they have available that's digital.
And that's one of those we are really surprised too. But what can we do?
We've talked to them a few times, different occasions at different events, and
nothing came out of it really.
Well, I mean, currently they seem to be more interested in possibly making their own virtual tabletop, and I don't. I mean, that's their.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean,
yeah.
it's it's not. It's this kind of thing where you can't get. I mean, we don't get upset about it, or we don't even feel off. But, it's just like the ball's in their court. To be honest.
And we can't sit around thinking about it much.
Yeah.
I mean, but Pathfinder is the second most played game in our system, and we would love to have official items for it, and they would sell like hotcakes. But that's one of those things that if I sit around and I think about that, that's gonna be a real downer on my day. So I'd rather just go and worry about the people who are bringing content and doing. I mean, people who are straight up independent, like Devin Knight, who is launching as the result of his Kickstarter, is now launching something like 600 new tokens in the next week.
Awesome.
Like 20 some new packs.
Yeah, and it's so freaking cool and so awesome. That's the thing that I think. All right, this is what we're doing it for now. And one of these days, and it's not that there aren't major companies out there who haven't put in serious consideration. There are, and we'll see what happens as the result of that. But in the meantime, it's just a game where if you're interested, write those companies too and tell them that you're playing in Roll20 and digitally and how important it is to you.
I think the important thing is, if we want to talk about the big two, Wizards and Paizo, I mean, they've Wizards had their failed virtual tabletop. Paizo is trying to make theirs right now. I mean, they know that there's a market for these things. Yeah. I mean, D&D Next play test, they're like, yes, you can test it digitally, please do. I mean, they see it. They see, I guess they see the horizon out there, and I think they're very cautious about how to approach it.
Well, it's not just, I don't think, caution. At some point, it's about a time investment as well. I mean, like I just said, if I had more time in the day, I would make content. From their perspective, if they had more time in the day, they would publish digitally. But, where do you make that time? Where do you free things up? Where do you get the team to do that? But one of these days, I think that we will see, whether it's Savage Worlds, whether it's Wizards, whether it's Steve Jackson Games, whether it's whomever, whatever, that some of these content producers will go, all right, let's do this, even just on a small level, one trial, and they will see. I mean, the marketplace has grown tremendously in terms of it makes there are 50% more sales on the marketplace each month than the last. It grows at an insane pace, and at some point that pace is just going to be too big to ignore. So here's hoping.
And we do have a couple. I know we do have a couple board games people who plan on releasing them through the marketplace. It's just like the functionality isn't there yet, which we understand. Like
that's one of the reasons Carddex is next, is that we want to help several card games that have been talking about coming to Roll20, and that's something too. We've been really diligent. At one point, we had an intern out of the Rochester Institute of Technology who hopped on and was helping us out with a lot of things, and he actually went to every gaming Kickstarter that there was, like anything that was active, recently done, and as they came online, and said, hey, this is a cool project. This seems like something that would work within a digital table space. You should consider this. And we've had two things like kind of move forward out of that, but out of the 50 or so that he contacted, none of them are still on the marketplace. It's a time game, but one of these days. When you have a
physical, I mean, it's just, I mean, if you're a gaming company, you want the box in a store. Yeah, right. You want people playing around table, and I mean, they would be like, "Yeah, that's really cool. If it could be digitally, that'd be awesome." But I need to get through steps 1 through 10 before I get to step 11. So this is all we do. So. Yeah.
All right, Matt, you have any more questions?
No, that pretty much answered mine.
All right, so I have
feelings there.
Some questions here from users, and I've seen these questions on the forums as well. And I'm sure you guys have read them and went, we're working on that, or we can't do anything about it. But I have one from DM Dan, and I've had this problem myself. It's about pasting icons or player avatars from page to page. A couple people said it's a hassle. Mm-hmm. He wants to know if there's a way to copy and paste it from one page to the next without it slowing down, or when they paste it, maybe not pasting in a random area. Because he said a lot of times when he pasted it, exposed some of the area of fog by accident and ruins the game on his planned adventure. So, what are you doing to address something like that?
We have worked several things and are continuing to improve as far as where things paste, and that's going to be something that I think is constantly going to be until we find the precise solution, whether it's, it comes where the mouse is or whatever, we'll be figuring out. But within the next update, there is now...
I think right now on the dev server, right?
Yeah, it's already on the dev server.
Yeah,
do you want to read it, or do you have it up? I got it in front of me.
I was going to... basically, you can read it, but from the journal tab, whether you keep your character, the character, whatever, handouts... Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? Basically, you can click on there, pull up your character, and there'll be a slot for your token. Then you can just drag the token from the character sheet to the table, so you won't have to copy and paste anymore.
Yeah, and that way, too, the stats will stay. So previously, you were copying the stats from the last... So if you want to copy the stats from the map they were on, you can do that, or you can have it now coming from the default token slot. So yeah, there is a change to that literally on the development server right now, and should be out in our next update on the 1st of May. So look forward to that.
And pasting will be kind of addressed in the future, hopefully, right?
Yeah, and that's one of those things. We've actually done several improvements to where things paste in terms of order on the map, both up and down, so the Z order, as it were, and where it pastes on the map. I'm trying to think of what the current parameters are set on that. I can't remember what the last change was with that, but that is something that we've played with, several times in the past, and I imagine we'll play with several times in the future.
Okay. And I have one. You've probably seen this name all over the place, Old School Chris.
I've seen the name Old School Chris.
I've seen that name.
He's one of our listeners, and he was playing in one of my games on your Roll20. Actually, we're playing an MIB D6 game on your site right now.
Ooh.
Pretty cool so far. Anyway, he wants to know, and I've seen this problem myself as well, and offered a suggestion up. The Looking for Group. A lot of people obviously don't know about it, and they just post randomly in the forum, and without going to look for group first.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a way that we can incorporate to use some type of tagging instead of free-form box and looking for groups that the people have to click off the edition or the game. Because I know a lot of people are putting in the wrong tags, and you have games labeled wrong, and it just throws people off.
Well, I mean, a drop down is something that I think will happen, but at the same time, we don't want to. There's so much that's going on that's homebrew and that sort of thing that we don't necessarily want to lock everything into. This is exactly what it is. This is exactly what we support. But at the same time, I do think that there's a few things that are just so established as, all right, there's enough people playing this, so we could probably go ahead and put some of those more established tags in there. The social and looking for group features are something that we've literally been working on the past 2 months as far as figuring out, well, are we going to do player ratings? Are we going to do this or that? And it's going to be a constant refresher as the next few months go forward until we get... helping people, now that we have so many people, helping them get into games is the next logical progression. And so, just recently, if you've been on the forums, you've seen me on the Looking for Group forum saying, hey, if you're making this here, are you making this over there in the system? Because the system is way better. And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize. They go, oh, well, I can write all this stuff here on the forums, and there's all these people looking at the forums. It's not as easy to search because it's always going to be based on the time you posted it instead of the time the game is happening. Whereas you can sort the Looking for Group system based on the time the game is happening, so you can find out whether or not...
I think it has to do with the fact that people don't read and they're not looking.
Yeah,
well, but when we first... I remember we had the Looking for Group forum during the closed beta, just to kind of... We threw it up just to facilitate games, obviously, to get to testing. And then when we made the listing, the functionality of it that's there for making games and posting what times they play, I was like, all right, we're going to delete that forum now, right? That forum is getting deleted. And they're like, no, people still use it. We'll leave it. But I've always wanted to just delete, just get rid of it.
One of these days.
Just get rid of it. Like the functionality is like the Looking for Group listing. It needs seems some more things. And I think that's why we're not quite comfortable with getting rid of it altogether. But yeah, the pinnacle of finding games is that you won't need a forum.
Yeah.
There are forums on the individual listings, so if you have questions about specific games, you can ask them there.
Yeah.
And hopefully that can just go away. They'll just disappear.
Think of how nice that would be to a point where everything in that Looking for Group system is as such where, you see the games and each one, like you said, each one of them already has a subform. So you can go in there and say, hey, I see that you're playing, since I'm a 4th edition junkie, 4th edition, so do I have to use, the core classes, or can I do this crazy hybrid thing? Because you don't say anything about that I can't be a rogue war priest hybrid or whatever silly thing that I want to do. And so having that you can go in and have those conversations there, that takes care of a lot of it. It's just making certain that, it's easy enough to search, that all the elements are there, that there's, at the same time, that it's moderated enough that there's not, just trash or pornography or something awful out there. But
because, we are... sorry.
No, say we are getting...
Yeah, it was like, in essence, the looking for group right now is really a looking for player listing.
Yeah.
The group is there. It needs people to fill it. So we thought about, too, maybe having an actual looking for group where, like, I am a prospective player. I want to play I have these 4 types of systems I'm interested in. I'm available at these times.
Yeah.
And GMs could look at them, or they'll match that profile to games that are available in that profile or something. So
yep.
Yeah. It is something that we've talked about. There's a problem that needs to be solved for sure. It's just, again, resources.
We'll get there.
I like how it's changed up the whole system when you post it looking for group. Instead of just applying to the game, you can post in the subtopic forum of the game, hey, I'm interested, and this is what I bring to the table, and the GM can just click invite the game.
Yeah. It makes it easier. And that's we are constantly looking for those sorts of solutions. It's one of those things, like, it's a fight in that sometimes it feels like this is all happening very, very slowly, but at the same time, if we look at it in the context of it's been a year and there was literally no program a year ago, things are going quickly. They really are. So, bear with us, and we will get to the point where we get over some of these cliffs. It's just, continuing. We keep putting one foot in front of the other every day, and hopefully things keep getting better.
All right. So what are some of the things that are in the works that you can tell us about that we could see in the future?
I think the easiest thing to talk about is the API, which is an application programming interface. Okay. So this is for mentors. And essentially what's happened is, as we have all these new elements that come into Roll20, our interest has always been in just having a tabletop. We don't want a video game. We want a shared table service that we can gather around and just kind of hang out and have fun. Right. But there are people who disagree with that.
Yeah, and obviously. That being said, people coming over from other tabletops with a lot more automation set into it. They admit, like, oh, I miss my complicated. I miss spending 12 hours on macros and then hitting one button. And I want to be able to use what I know already and make this better. So. Yeah.
So this is giving a programming interface for those people that want to do that, and that is absolutely a paid service. If you want to get into that stuff, okay, you can. That is paid. Go and do that, and you can make the program do all sorts of weird things that you want it to do, and that will free us up a lot to go back in and worry about the things. So our plan, like, it is set in stone that the next update, May 1st, is going to have a large portion of this application programming interface. After that, our plan right now is that we're going to go back and look at card decks, because that's a really clear thing, that working on card decks isn't anything about automation. It's purely about making something functioning like a table. How do you trade cards more easily? How do cards, like right now there's a big problem in that when you put a card out on the table, the size is not the size that the card was originally, and so we're going to change some of the sizing features as for what cards are when they come onto the table, and we're going to make that whole system just flow a lot more naturally so that you can do more and more things with cards in the system, and that'll be a real nice, very simple update. But with both those updates, we're also going to see some improvements to the social features and the looking for group stuff. And I'm trying to think of what else we've decided is in the near future. I mean, those are definitely the highlights. We have regular meetings as far as what's going to happen, and then on our internal podcast, we announce a lot of it once it's more set in stone. But those two things, the API and the card decks, are the things you can definitely look for improvements in May on.
And the API is going to be the kind of thing where, like, if somebody develops a way in the API to automate the way something specifically happens and say like Shadowrun with the way I'm a component of Shadowrun, but like if you always wanted to be able to do this in your Shadowrun games, here's the script that does it, and they can share that, and somebody else runs a Shadow game, they can just copy that API script, paste it right into their game, and then they have it already and it's ready to go. Like, it's that kind of advanced integration that
I think the first things that we played with were things like hit points, where it would automatically put up a certain marker when a token hit so many hit points for bloodied, or hit so many hit points for deceased. And so things like that, there's going to be a lot of different automated things that people can do with this.
I think another example is if you put a light source on a token, he's got a lantern, but it runs out in 50 feet, and it'll track its movements, and in 50 squares, the light source will go down to 0, that kind of thing.
Which is all really cool, but it's all also very video gamey. And
all very awesome things, but things that when we need, like you said, we need to rehaul the looking for group feature, or we need to make sure that the pasting and ordering is right. That's like wasted resources.
That's what we want to work on. We want to work on the stuff that just makes everything super duper easy to use. So if you want to work on these crazy, complex, weird things, power to you. Here's the way that you can do it now. And that hopefully is going to free us up to have more time to just stay the course and do, what makes this program great for everybody. But yeah, we'll see. I'm really excited about it because I think the people are going to do some really cool things that we never even imagined with that system. But I'm more excited in the realm of, okay, I don't have to worry about, people saying, well, there's no way for us to do this crazy macro thing again. Like, that's gone. you can go and do that.
It's not gone. It'll be there.
Yeah, well, it can be there, and we can just go, look at API, and then go back to doing things like making it way easier to trade cards, which is the sort of thing that should just feel natural, because that's a tabletop experience, and that's the sort of thing that we're concerned with.
Yeah. What is something you'd like to see get fixed, or something you'd like to see implemented in the future?
I think we've talked about a lot of, for me, having more modules and that sort of thing on the marketplace is big. Card features working more fluidly is big. The images that when you drop them on the table being the appropriate size and that sort of thing. There's just lots of little fixes like that. The thing that I always bring up as something that I would really like is when you first get into Roll20, the maps, you go up to the page feature to find them, and then the gear. And I wish that was just a little bit more intuitive. And one of these days, I'm going to think of something brilliant that makes that more intuitive. But overall, I like the program a lot, and I think that as long as we continue to polish it, it's going to get better. There's nothing out there that just screams, this is breaking everything for me. Technically, the game, the Roll20 was doing what I needed it to do to play with my friends in April of last year, before it was open to anybody else. So there's nothing out there that's horrific as far as I'm concerned. It's just about making it better. Richard, is there anything that you think of that just drives you crazy?
I think nothing in app, but I think honestly, like the biggest thing that's wrong would be that there aren't enough GMs that run games. I think there are a plethora of players that want to play, or people who had never played RPGs at all. They'd be like, "Oh, I'd be interested in playing, but there's no way on earth that I'm going to GM a game." For one, I don't know anything about RPGs, tabletop RPGs, or board, war gaming or anything like that in general. And then also I have to learn this program. It's different when your buddy sends you a link and then you're in the game and that's it. Then they're explaining how to play it, and it's different coming in. And so I would like that onboarding process to be a little easier for somebody who, have you always been interested in online gaming, or, here's how you do it, just a way to increase the number of GMs, really. And I think that'll increase the number of games, which will increase the number of GMs, which will increase the number of games. And I think it's like exponential from there. So
I think maybe if we were talking before the show, if the community stepped up and offered to start their own little mentor program, different from obviously what you guys have, but let's say we'll spend some time and we'll show everyone how to be a GM, so that way they're more comfortable learning the rules and then jumping into a game.
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing too, where you'd have to be there's people that do that, and more things like that would be awesome, but you have to be a member of the forums to even like see something like that or be about the. I guess I think we need to do something that is, that will just be on the front page the first time you sign up for an account. I mean, we do have we have tutorial videos, but I think that does help a lot. But
maybe
I don't think we haven't thought of it yet. But I think getting more GMs, however we do that, I think that's the thing I want to fix.
Maybe a volunteer basis with a trainer badge. That way people see trainer and they're like, oh, maybe this person can help me.
Yeah. And there are a few people like off the top of my head that I can think of. If we did something like that, we would immediately point to. It's just a matter of.
Oh yeah, I just had it. I talked to one of our users. His name is Ajax, the cleaner.
Yeah, he runs tons of games.
67 years old. He ran games with Gygax in the original first Gen Con. Mm-hmm. He plays 5 games a week on Roll20, an in-person game on his own. He's a Pathfinder Society guy. I mean, it's crazy.
And he's awesome though, and he's constantly bringing in new people.
I wish I could clone him.
Yeah,
yeah.
He is the perfect GM, and it's one of those things. To some extent, people also have to make themselves known on the. This is one of the. We are not an island by any means. The people who are moderators with us are people who have distinguished themselves on the forums. We have moderators on other places like Google Plus communities and Reddit and stuff like that, who are people who have taken initiative. If people are stepping up and kind of making clear that they are the help, they very naturally have ended up in positions so far. And been institutional. Every single one of our moderators is somebody who, at some point stepped up and told.
And those people were easy to find at the beginning because the first couple of days of beta we'd have 1,000 feature requests, suggestions. So
I still remember Zach Cross, who's one of our moderators. There was a point where he had. He had answered 20 different forum posts.
He just starts answering questions before we could. We just give him a badge and send him into just deputize him.
Yep.
And we have bad guys.
But I mean that's really what it is. If people are there and talking, we do notice. We are there reading it ourselves, and we definitely see the patterns of, hey, this person has been really helpful. They're really polite. They're really friendly. They don't overstep their bounds and try to pretend that they know something that they don't. They just offer the most honest, and helpful opinion that they can. And we've been really, really lucky with our moderators so far. And I think, as we see more community creations, we are seeing now people doing simulcasting and live streaming and stuff like that are becoming more and more institutionalized, things that we expect to be sharing across our social media and stuff like that, because these people are taking the time to make a quality thing to share with others. And we if you say Roll20 3 times somewhere on the internet, we find it. is the honest to goodness truth. Say what?
Yeah, like Candyman come through the mirror.
Exactly. No, it really is true. You say Roll20 enough times, and we do show up, and we love how enthusiastic the community is, and the people who take ownership of it. So if that's something you're interested in, take ownership of it, and eventually the stars will align to the point where it is institutionalized. Promise.
It is amazing to see how many people who do not know about Roll20, and I get a lot of questions a lot in our emails asking what's the best place to go, and I'm always like, well, Roll20. It's the best place. Everyone's like, well, what about map tools? I'm like, no, dude, if you don't want to learn programming, I'm not dissing map tools or putting them down. They're a wonderful source, but if you just want to go in, throw things on a screen and play, Roll20. I always tell everybody, Roll20, the easiest thing to learn, no learning curve, very simple. May take a few minutes to just upload something, but that's about it.
That was the hope, was that it was easy. I mean, from our vantage point, we wanted to play with people who didn't necessarily, sit all day. And port forwarding was a big thing, but beyond that, just we wanted things to be intuitive for guys who both had played previously in real life, or secondarily, I mean, we have somebody in our development streams who had never played a role-playing game before and is not a big computer guy. And he manages because, the system is really, really simple. Hey, go to this point and, put in this stat, and it works. So, it's good to hear that.
Yeah, so I always try to push people towards the website to get more exposure, to have more fun in games. So
thank you.
We feel like I feel like everybody knows about us already, but we still get like
we get 600 new users a day, at least
600 to 800 new users. I'm like, where are like I one day that number is going to stop. That people are going to stop coming because everybody's going to have heard about us already, and then either they are using us or they decided they didn't like us or whatever. So I wish we knew where people aren't hearing us, and then we can go let them know about us.
Well, I think one of the cool things about this is that we have two user bases that are really interesting out there in terms of people who play in real life that, you know, then their party splits up because they move apart, which is our experience, or people, I mean, I can think of so many people because of my time in the comics realm that are interested in, you know, I've heard about Dungeons and Dragons. I've heard about Pathfinder. I've heard about Munchkin. I've heard about all these different things that people get together and play, but I've never done it. Yeah. And for them to have a way that they can do it that's kind of, you know, at low risk, that isn't as scary as, well, I got to go down to the store and I don't know what the people are going to be like and they could be mean. You know, if it's online and everybody's mean, I can just yeah, I can just hit X on the program and run away, and that's fine. Yeah. But you know, it's perfect to just, if you just want to sit home on Saturday and join a game and, you know, just sit there in front of your computer, camera, no camera. All you need is a headset. You sit there with your chips in front of you and your dice. If you don't want to use the program to roll, and you can play a game all day long. My dream is someday after Roll20 is my full-time job, that I'm going to take like a week and just jump around looking for group games and just play. Like not just go and try out all sorts of systems that I haven't done and just dink around and have fun, because I think that is out there for the people who, you know, have the time to do it. So, man, I really want to do that one of these days. But there's just, if I did that right now, the system would fall apart. So, gotta keep fighting. All right, so I got one last question. I always ask this, and this is the infamous, if you were a household appliance, which one would you be and why? Starting with Nolan. Oh, man, if I was a household appliance, I'm really fond of my red Swingline stapler. You know, I don't even print that much stuff other than like scripts that I'm reviewing, but it's a beautiful thing to look at. It's a functional thing. It's a thing that, you know, for those who have seen Office Space, it's got an in-joke element to it, and I want to bring things together, and I want to be humorous as I do it, and I want to look cool as I do it. So a red Swingline stapler would definitely be very high on my list of household appliances I would want to be. Okay, and Richard? I don't really know how to answer that. If you were household appliance. Come on, it's a great on-the-spot question. I guess I feel like in our working dynamic, I'm kind of the middle. I don't know the problem solver. But the referee, the adjudicator? Yeah, referee. yeah. The referee, the guy that's in the middle that's like, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. The moderator. Yeah, what do you think? Oh, that's also interesting. Adapter. Yeah. So yeah, I would be a universal remote control. There you go. For to like TV, internet, you know, the Apple one that works with every Apple device or something. Yeah. Very cross-platform. Yeah, cross-platform. There you go. Yeah, that's what I would think. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Nolan. Thank you, Richard, for joining us today. And for those people out there, roll20.net is where you can go. And if they want to get a hold of you on there, they would just have to hit contact us, and you could probably get one of the two of you. It's probably a general email address. That goes team at roll20.net gets the three of us, and whomever is. That's one of those things, again, that we have a really good working dynamic, so we know who's asking. We know who's responding to which email. Like, I can look at the title and I know who's going to respond to that email and when it's going to get And at the same time, though, our forums are really the best place for just general use questions or any number of things, because, again, we love it when members of the community are talking about stuff, and sometimes they'll have better answers than we have and more time to answer than we have. So if it's something as far as a use question, or even bigger things like, hey, so what about PayPal and stuff like that? The forums are a really good resource for that. and ourselves and the people who are, most informed are there helping out as well. So both team at Roll20.net and the community forums are really good places to hit us up and ask whatever.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm going to say this is Vince for Matt signing off, saying keep it original, keep it old school, and roll your virtual 20s on Roll20.net.
Roll for initiative.